Why does OpenAI cost so much? If you look at this chart, you can see that GPT-4 and Claude Sonnet are miles above these two models that I'm going to cover in this video. So if you're wondering, how do I save money on AI? Like, why is AI so expensive? Probably because you're using closed source models instead of open ones. And what does the term open even mean? What is an open source model? Let's check out this reel and you will see. Open versus closed model. As you can see, you have this clay figure in the open field with all this grass. Then you have this other clay figure that's boxed in. It still gives good prompts like ChatGPT and Claude, but its data is closed because basically if an AI was trained on the web, it should be open source. The reason why they close it is because of it just being more in control by OpenAI. And open source basically means that you can download the code and use it for yourself, and the creators are giving it away for free. That's the reason why this term you haven't heard this term before, is because they don't want you to know. That's going to be today's video. We're just going to cover over costs, benchmarks, basically how to use this in N8N, and then how to use new upcoming smart open source models with OpenRouter. Alright, so to start off, we have our two open source models, which are Kimi K2 and Mistral. And basically, it is miles cheaper than GPT-4 and Sonnet 4. And this is the reason why DeepSeek blew up this year, was because of it being like ridiculously cheap compared to these closed source models. And these are relatively just as intelligent as GPT versus some of the best models in the AI community. And Kimchi is something that like people were super impressed by because of it being like the most intelligent open source model there is on the market, with it being like fairly cheap compared to Sonnet 4 and GPT-4. You look at Sonnet 4, it is at an 86, while Mistral is at an 84, and Kimi K2 is at an 82. Like, it is just so close to Sonnet 4. Even though Sonnet 4 is like slightly smarter, it is just like such a fortune to use. So yeah, this is just insanely, for the most part. Yeah, open source models I think getting better and almost close to the closed source models. Super interesting per se. But now we are going to actually do this live, and the reason why you want to use open source models in the first place is because their data is actually trained to be more recent than ChatGPT. Because in the last video in this course, we talked about how ChatGPT, its data was cut off in October of 2023. This, on the other hand, is probably trained on data in 2025 or late 2024, which is pretty good. And these open source models are trained on Reddit communities and GitHub repos, so it's the perfect model for coding. So give me some tips on GitHub and how to get better at downloading repos. But yeah, I love using open source models it's just so much cheaper, and it really just helps, I think, with costs and deploying these AI agents. And basically, what an AI agent is just a fancy term for a more capable chatbot. And it's given me just a lot of tips. It's even like giving me all the terminal stuff. This is pretty complicated, as you can see, but it shows that it's pretty intelligent, which is such a good thing. All right, so now we are going to learn how to use OpenRouter so you can use some of the most efficient and cheapest AI models out there. So all you have to do is you have to sign up. You have to basically buy 5 credits and then create your API key. So we're going to go to Home, then we're going to go to Keys. Then we're going to create an API key to set this thing up. We're going to do just test and create. And then I'm going to delete this key so you guys have no access to it. But boom, there's your new key. All right. Now what we're going to do is we're going to open up OpenRouter. We're going to select Kimi K2, and we are going to say, hey, can you give me some code to create a cool web page? Question mark. And it's going to do its magic, and I really love OpenRouter because it's just so efficient, and you're using the newest models that are just so efficient and cheap. And yeah, I think that this is really important to use as an AI agency owner because you're just going to save so much money, and you can use this in businesses and just cut so much on costs. Very important per se. All right, so we're gonna test Kimi K2 for the most part because this is acting up a little bit weird. So we're gonna say, hey, give me tips on why to use OpenAI models. Closed ones. When I say open models with checkpoints, training data, or at least research papers that are public and allowed for commercial use. Basically, you can just download it and not have to pay a dime versus close, where it's a lot more biased. With open, you can fine tune it. You can have no API charges, which is really cool. It's way cheaper. There's a lot more power in data privacy. It's a lot faster, better for longevity, and just a really fast moving industry to be in. Pretty powerful, and yeah, Kimchi shows why it's just as good as Claude, which is super cool. I hope you learned a lot on how to save a ton of money using open source models, and basically why it's just so important to use them in the first place. That's going to be the video for our bronze section. So I hope you enjoyed it. Yeah, see you in the next one.